Good afternoon and welcome everyone. A big welcome to the Africam show, brought to you by explore.org. My name is Russell Gerber, and of course with you for the next half an hour or so we'll be going through the live cameras, seeing what we've got hanging around at the various locations around the country. And of course we'll be happily taking your questions during the show. So if you have anything on your mind or anything you'd like to ask about the wildlife, please feel free to send through those questions during the show, and I'll do my best to get to them at some point, hopefully in the show itself. Otherwise, even just a shout out to say hello and where you're watching from. It's always great to hear where everybody's hanging out with us from. And today, kicking off the show at, of course, one of our newer cameras, the care for Rhinos Wildlife Sanctuary, with our beautiful young rhinos having a little afternoon snack. Everyone looking quite contented at the Rhino cam. And as I said, we'll be bouncing from various location to location today as well. If anything does come down, we've had quite a bit of early rain in the Paluli area, where the majority of our cameras are, around the Kruger National Park. Nice to have a little bit of early rainfall. It's a bit early in the season. Most of our rain tends to arrive around November and December for this region of South Africa. I suspect that rain from a big cold front system that's been moving through the country over the last week or so. It's all drying up a little bit now, but we'll see most afternoons over the next couple of weeks and months. Many of you will notice in the afternoon around about this time you'll start to see a little bit more cloud build up in the afternoons, building up towards what will eventually be our big afternoon thunder showers that we get during the summer season in the northeastern parts of South Africa. Very much a summer rainfall area, unlike down here in the Western Cape, where I'm coming to you from, where we tend to get a bit more of a Mediterranean climate, as it were. Cool, wet winter and a very dry and warm summer. And a quick hello to a few of you. Pat from Florida, Wanda from South Carolina, Denise from Philadelphia. We've got Rebecca from San Miguel, Jillian from Wisconsin, Barbara from Louisiana. A big hello to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Always fun to have you join us, of course. And I suspect early in the morning, where you all are watching me from, of course, late afternoon here in South Africa, just after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And Belle Smith from Oklahoma, lovely to have you with us. Just crossed over to Tau. We got a few of our striped friends coming down for a drink, it seems. He's, of course, our plains zebra, what used to be referred to as Burchell's zebra. It's nice to see them. It's been fairly quiet. As I've mentioned before, when the rains do start arriving, many of the animals will start spreading out into other parts of the reserve and away from the permanent water holes. There's just not that much to eat around here. Oh, some family disagreements about sharing the water space. Looks like a grumpy stallion trying to show some dominance over the rest of the crew around there. I'm sure many of you will know male zebra, or stallions as we refer to them, can get quite aggressive, particularly if there are females within their harem that are in heat. And not just kicking, they can also bite. Give a pretty severe bite if need be. What otherwise always looks like a very relaxed animal, a zebra. Even they can get agitated, especially when there's not much food around as well. And of course not too much water. Although this year things looking a little bit better. If you go back through the footage and have a look at some of our footage from this time last year, it was much drier at the water holes, particularly here at Tau. But it's been a fairly good rainfall. We had a bit of late rainfall at the end of the season, earlier in the year. And now just a taste of early rainfall as well. That always bodes well for the environment and all these ecosystems, particularly here at Tau, where the water is even more scarce. Significantly lower rainfall than the northeastern regions of South Africa, where we have many of our cameras, as I mentioned, around Kruger and then down towards Tembe, where things are a lot more subtropical and tropical. And Tau, often considered a more semi-desert region. And where we started off the show today at Camphor's Dam with the flamingos, very much the central part of South Africa. Also a very, very dry region. Looks like just a short visit from our zebra friends today. And a couple of more hellos. Gloria Padre from San Francisco. Hello, Gloria. I know San Francisco very well. My wife is from San Francisco, so we get out there as much as we can. It's been a while, unfortunately, but we'll be back at some point. Debbie Schmidt from Maryland. Welcome, Debbie. Yeah, looks like our zebra's heading back off into the sunset after their short visit. As I mentioned to you folks, of course, we have a couple of highlights to show you today. And as we watch our zebras walk away into the distance, we're going to dive right into our first highlight that we wanted to show you, which is one of my favorite animal species here in Africa. And this in particular, a very beautiful specimen. And on close inspection, having a look at her, this is a female leopard that we see fairly often on the cameras. She definitely has a territory around the Rosie's and Naledi camera locations. And this is who we refer to as the Rosie female. You can see those two, on the back of her two ears, you can see notches out of both sides. It's one of the ways we identify her. She also has a pretty clear spot pattern, which is how we identify leopards as well. The row of spots on just above the whisker line on either side of their whiskers, and she's got 3 spots on each side, so referred to as the 3-3 female. But just such a gorgeous lady. She also has a cub who we've seen from time to time as well, also a female. But that cub has moved on and split away from her. Cubs only tend to stick around with the females themselves, with their moms, for around about 1.5 years or 2 years until they head off. And the female cubs, her cub in particular, will often take up territories very nearby mom, sometimes overlapping with their mother. But even when they do come across each other, though they may not fight, they tend to give each other their own space as much as they can. And over time, that young cub of hers will probably move further and further away. The male cubs, unfortunately, they have to move a much further distance to get away from their father's territory. You'll often have a big dominant male who will have a number of females within his territory. So at Rosie's cub, the female would be, the father would not be too bothered about her hanging around in the same, or within his territory, but certainly his sons, they would have to move off long distances to get away from dad's territory. But a beautiful sighting of, as I said, one of my favorite animal species. They really are easy on the eye. Got to be one of the most beautiful animals out there, in my humble opinion. And we're back live now. Having a look at what looks like a little 3-banded plover. As we've also spoken about in the past, this is a very good time of the year for many of our wading birds. With the low water, makes feeding a little bit easier. This one's in shadow. Of course, one of our many dove species. And this one of the most common, the Cape turtle dove. You would have heard its call many times on the show. You can actually hear it in the background right now. Many guides out there refer to them as the work harder, drink lager bird. In the morning they call work harder, and in the afternoons drink lager. That's what they say the call sounds like, which I can hear from time to time. And Donna says, I love Africa except when the animals are hunting each other. And I don't stay. I know they have to eat, but I just prefer not to watch. Thank you for sharing Africa with us. It's so pretty and interesting. You're very welcome, Donna. Yeah, it's not easy to watch those kinds of behaviors as we look upon our Egyptian goose. But as you say, it is a part of life, certainly in the wild. And in this time of year, it can be a difficult time for many of the prey species. This is often a time of plenty for predators. But don't think there are too many predators around this afternoon, but you never know what might come around. But thank you for your comment. Anna Emerson asks, do zebras usually stay in groups or do they veer off alone? Anna, they're almost always in groups or herds. Normally it will be a stallion with his harem of females and his offspring. And then occasionally you'll get a group of young males together who will then eventually try and fight for their own harem. But yes, when you do see zebra, it's very unlikely to find them on their own unless one is injured or a foal that has lost its mother. But a good question, so thank you for that, Anna. And then Dewey White asks, how often do leopard drink water? Dewey, that's another good question. It's actually not that easy to answer. Often after they've eaten, and that female did look like she had quite a full belly, they will come down to the nearest water source and have a good drink. Normally they will drink at least once a day. They can go more than that, maybe 2 days, but for the most part they will come down at least once a day, often twice a day. And as I said, particularly after eating. And looks like we've crossed back over to Tau with our crocodile in the background and what looks like a couple of spur-winged goose sleeping. Spur-winged geese, should I say. That brings me to our quiz question for the day. Commenting about our lovely leopard. Of course, we get leopard here in Africa. Where else in the world do we find leopard? So you don't have to tell me every other country, but just give me a region I will allow. Where else in the world do we find leopard outside of Africa? Send through your answers and we'll get to them towards the end of the show. Lynn asks, what's that leopard's name? And that leopard that we were talking about was, as I said, the rosy female. Often seen around rosies and Naledi. And while we watch our animals having a good nap on camera, it looks like our geese are waking up briefly. Let's dive into our next highlight clip for you all. And this one, a really fun clip. This was at Kwamaritan, and this hippo has had a number of freeloaders hanging out on its back. It looks like a pretty certainly adult bull hippo. You often see them in water holes like this on their own. Normally a bull that doesn't have his own group of females just yet, or perhaps a bull that's been ousted from a previous pod that he was the dominant male for. And as you can see here, a little terrapin and what we call a hamerkop, that bird hanging out on his back. Now, for the most part, hippos prefer to be completely covered in water with just their head and nostrils sticking out, but at the moment there's just not a lot of water real estate around. Looks like a hinged terrapin. And then, of course, our hamerkop. Hamerkop is an Afrikaans name. It means hammerhead. If you look at the head of that beautiful wading bird, it does resemble somewhat a hammer. And we've got Kindergarten in Ontario, Canada joining us. Thank you very much, Kindergarten. Hope you all enjoying the show and this really funny clip of these animals hanging out on the back of this hippo. We've seen a couple of others too, the Egyptian geese and their little goslings also were hanging out on the back of this hippo. But everybody seems very content and peaceful with each other. And then Kathy Ann asks, how does a male leopard know, or leopard cub know to go far away from dad's territory? Is it just genetically known? Kathy, actually, unfortunately, not quite genetically. When they are forced away, often it will be because mom is going into estrus and she's ready to mate with another male. And when that does happen, she will actually chase him away, as well as her daughter, if she has two cubs. And then as soon as the male comes onto the scene, that male will very swiftly chase away the young male as much as possible. And what you get is often the youngsters hanging around the mother at a distance for a number of weeks, sometimes months, until eventually they move off on their own. Been a really fun clip. I hope you all enjoyed that. Back live now at our Careful Rhinos camera. Lily's wondering, do the rhinos sleep in their enclosure? Yes, they do, Lily. They quite like that little enclosure, and they often go indoors, sometimes off camera, so we can't see them when they are sleeping, but they do indeed. And Anna asked, are there crocodiles in this watering hole? And I'm not sure if you were talking about the one with the hippo. If so, at the moment, there doesn't seem to be a croc there. Have in the past, but at the moment there aren't. But often crocodiles and hippos are quite happy together in the same watering hole. Thank you for your question. And then cheese, please. Nice to have you back. Cheese, please. Says that we saw a leopard sniffing out the remains of the kudu kill that was on the Nomad cam. I think it was the Rosie's female cub. That's awesome, cheese please. I actually haven't seen that yet, so I'll have a look out for it and let you know. But yeah, as I said, that female cub of Rosie has been around and is still sticking around in the area. Not too often with her mom anymore. But she's also a beautiful specimen, so thanks for letting us know. I'll check that out in the highlights. And a couple of answers coming through on leopard. Where else in the world do we find leopards? And Kathy Ann says Asia. We've got Denise, Russia, snow leopard. Ray Bursky says Asia. And a couple of good answers out there. So keep them coming, and we'll get to that answer towards the end of the show. And for the meantime, let's go right into our next highlight video. Another really fun one that we wanted to show you. Now, this is from that kill that we were chatting about. Kudu kill. This was a jackal, and of course the white-backed vultures diving into the carcass. So you can't see much of it underneath there. And as we were chatting about earlier, this is not always easy to watch, but a very big part of life here in Africa. And the scavengers play such an important role in cleaning up the environment. Any of the animals that are left behind, carcasses that are left behind, This is very much the cleaning crew. Your black-backed jackals, the side-striped jackals we get in the area, vultures, of course, a number of different species, from the whiteback we see here to the leopard-faced vultures, hooded vulture, and even Cape vulture we get in the area sometime. And then, of course, the famous scavengers, things like hyena, and even occasionally, of course, the bigger predators like lion and even leopard. Any of them will take the opportunity at grabbing some free food if and when it is available. And many people think that leopard in particular will only take fresh food. Well, that's not the case at all, certainly not when they are sub-adults. They will, more often than not, take whatever they can find. Although, coming around a carcass like this for a young female leopard can be very dangerous. If you have a look at this jackal wolfing down its meal here, always on the lookout. You see those ears pricking up, looking around at every opportunity. Because any bigger predator that comes along, like a lion or like a leopard, even hyena, if they happen to catch the jackal, they will often actually injure them and can kill them. And that's simply for competition. But of course the jackal is very fast and very smart and can outrun most other predators that get too close. As I said, not always easy to watch, but a very important part of our natural environment here in Africa. And two of our less glamorous species, but still, as I say, huge role players in the environment out here. And then we've got a couple more answers for our quiz question. Where else in the world do we find a leopard outside of Africa? Massamina, that is leopard in India. Another good answer. We've got Mary Momo. Welcome back, Mary. Nice to have you with us. Leopards can be found in India. Indeed. So keep them coming, folks. We're back live now, of course, checking out Tau, seeing who's around. We've got a couple of guinea fowl feasting away in the foreground. What sparse food is left in the on the ground at this time of year. And then Laura MC, Afghanistan. That's very specific. I like it. Snow leopard. I only know from the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Really fun movie. Yeah, I remember that scene as well. But while things are still looking pretty quiet, although we've got a nice number of bird species around, let's have a look at our last clip of the day, which was a really fun one as well. Again, of some of Africa's most iconic species. Just listen carefully. And that is a wonderful interaction between, as I said, some of our most iconic species. And of course these are the African wild dog, or painted wolf, one of our most endangered big predators here in Africa, being chased off by what looked like a young male elephant. Now it's unlikely that the dogs would have any real, or be any real concern to an elephant in terms of prey, but elephants often get grumpy when there are predators around. And when you're bigger than everyone else, you can chase off whoever you want. And that's what happened in that little encounter. And very often when you see wild dogs around the elephants, they love chasing them off. You often see them chase off lions as well. But a really, really cool interactive video. And we're back live now at Olifants, where you can see those clouds that I've been talking about still hanging around. There's certainly the potential for some more rain, but heading towards the rainy season in a couple of months, you'll start seeing more and more of this sort of scene every afternoon. Looks like we've got somebody down by the side of the water there. Oh, just an Egyptian goose. Unfortunately, folks, we've run out of time for today. It's time to get to our quiz question answer. And many of you were spot on. It's a pretty broad answer for you today. It's a slightly easier question. I've asked you some tough ones in the last few weeks. And where else in the world are leopards found outside of Africa? And of course, you are 100% correct. The majority are found in Asia, of course. Actually, Eurasia. And interestingly, leopard are actually found in around 75 different countries in the world. They're one of the world's most adaptive big predators. They can often live close by urban areas without being detected. And are really remarkably good at surviving in areas that you would really not expect leopard to survive, from extremely dry areas to mountainous cold areas, as the snow leopard, as we mentioned, all the way through to the tropical areas that we noted, which of course are the most common. We have our leopard here in Africa, and of course the Indian leopard, which resembles the African leopard in almost every way. As I say, we're back live now at our Careful Wild camera. And Stephanie says, I didn't know elephants could run so fast. Yeah, it's amazing. When they get agitated, they can move really, really quickly, which is just incredible. But as I said, folks, unfortunately, we've run out of time today. And thank you so much for joining us. Always great chatting with you all and interacting with you about the animals. And of course, we'll be back again same time next week for the Africam show, brought to you by explore.org. And as always, my name is Russell Gerber. You can check me out at Russ the Ranger on Instagram if you're keen to interact with me there. Otherwise, after the show today, I will be on the Africam chat site on explore.org just for the next half an hour or so to answer some more of your questions if you have anything else on your mind. But from all of us here in the Africam team down in South Africa, thank you once again for joining us, and we'll see you all again soon. Cheers for now.